At 7:10 local time, a Tomahawk missile erupts from the deck of the USS Spruant and starts screaming towards Iran. Then the booster falls away, and a turbo fan the size of a coffee table spools to life, and the Tomahawk drops to 50 feet above the waterline. 4 seconds later, the next cell fires, then the next, then the next. The largest American military operation since the 2003 invasion of Iraq has just started, and Iran was about to find out firsthand why Americans don't have free healthcare. Within 90 seconds, 8 missiles are gone. 300 meters northwest, 2 other destroyers are running the same drill. 25 Tomahawks now race their radar altimeters along the wavetops, threatening between Iranian coastal surveillance stations on routes designed to exploit every known gap in coverage. Flight time to the IRGC naval bases on Iran's southern coast, 40 minutes. Nobody in Iran has any idea they're coming. Somewhere on the Gulf Coast, an Iranian radar operator is probably drinking tea and watching a blank scope. He has about 39 minutes of peace left, but Tomahawks are patient and slow. 550 miles per hour across open water means 40 minutes of exposure, where a single coastal radar ping could compromise the entire southern attack. Everything now depends on what crossed the border ahead of them. Already inside Iranian airspace, a wave of Lucas drones is doing something no American weapon has ever done. An Iranian air defense operator at a Bavar 373 battery watches a dozen slow-moving contacts materialize on his scope, pushing inland from the coast at barely 110 knots. He can't tell which ones carry 40-pound warheads aimed at his radar antenna and which ones are just noise. So, he does the only thing training allows. He fires. The interceptor streaks off the rail. Over $1 million. It tracks a drone the size of a riding lawnmower, closes at 3 times the speed of sound, and turns it into confetti. But it wasn't a Tomahawk missile. What you just saw blow up was a low-cost unmanned combat attack system, or Lucas drone operated by Task Force Scorpion Strike. The drones themselves, manufactured by Spectral Works in Mesa, Arizona, reverse-engineered from captured Iranian Shahed 136S, cost $35,000 to produce, and right now they're the most important aircraft over Iran. He fires again, another million, and again. This is cost exchange warfare at an industrial scale. Every interceptor that chases a drone cheaper than a pickup truck is one fewer in the magazine when 25 Tomahawk cruise missiles show up in 30 minutes. Worse, every time that battery fires, it broadcasts its exact position to the passive sensors on the F-35s now crossing the Iraqi border. That operator is spending his ammunition and painting a target on his own forehead at the same time. But the Iranian air defense commanders celebrating their wins are about to discover something. Those interceptors they just burned through, they were going to need every single one of them in about 25 minutes. Because what crossed the Iraqi border next wasn't a $35,000 drone. 12 F-15E Adirrs had been climbing east through Iraqi airspace for 90 minutes, tucked behind a screen of F-35I Adirs running silent in the lead. Electronic warfare suites passively cataloging every radar emission along the Iranian border while broadcasting nothing. The ROMs flew in the electromagnetic shadow, each one hanging heavy with a Rampage missile slung under the fuselage center line. At 08:05 local time, the formation reaches launch altitude over western Iraq. The lead weapons officer in the back seat has been watching his targeting display update for the last hour. Coordinates refined 3 times via Link 16 from an Israeli Oran intelligence aircraft circling over Jordan. He confirms the final solution. The pilot squeezes the release. 2,500 pounds drop away, and the ROM jumps, nose pitching up from the sudden weight loss. The fly-by-wire connecting before the pilot's hands can. Below the jet, the solid rocket motor lights. Each of the weapon punches through the sound barrier in seconds, trailing a wide exhaust plume that the pilot can see shrinking in his rearview mirrors as the missile climbs away on a ballistic arc toward Tehran. 11 more ROMs release within seconds of each other. 12 weapons now accelerating beyond anything Iran can intercept at this phase of flight arcing east. A Tomahawk from Iraq needs 45 minutes to reach Tan. These weapons need minutes. That gap is the entire ball game. 45 minutes gives Iranian radar operators time to detect, track, get authorization, and fire. Minutes gives them time to watch the impact on the news. Spent rocket boosters will tumble into fields across eastern Iraq. Austin analysts will photograph them within hours. But right now, 12 warheads are converging on Pastor Street. The Tomahawks are 10 minutes from the Gulf Coast. RD and the air defense batteries the Lucas drones have been emptying all morning are running out of things to shoot. At 08:10, everything arrives at once. The standoff weapons hit First, supersonic warheads arriving with functionally zero warning time. The office of the Supreme Leader on Pasture Street takes multiple direct hits. An Airbus satellite passing overhead captures the aftermath. Several buildings inside the compound reduced to broken concrete, smoke columns punching through the morning air. Within minutes, the F-35I Adirs cross the border carrying JDAMs and GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. This is where the F-35 sensor fusion earns every dollar of its price tag. The pilot rolling in on the Ministry of Defense does not flip between radar screens, infrared feeds, and threat displays. The jet's computers merge everything, and its own sensors link 16 data from every aircraft in the formation and satellite imagery into one picture. He sees every Iranian radar still operating within 200 meters, every friendly aircraft, the GPS coordinates of 3 buildings he's about to put a bomb through. One screen, one picture. Like driving with a GPS that shows every traffic camera, speed trap, and pothole, all updated in real time. Iran spent 30 years building an integrated air defense network. The F-35 turned it into a highlight reel. He rolls the ADR onto its back at 25,000 feet, pulls the nose down toward the Ministry of Defense compound, and releases a GBU-39 small diameter bomb. The weapon is only 250 pounds, a quarter the size of a standard JD dam, but its GPS-guided diamond-shaped wings let it glide over 40 meters from release point, and at this range, the circular error is measured in single-digit feet. The SDB punches through the ministry roof and detonates on a delayed fuse inside the 3rd floor, the level where military planning documents live. Across Tehran, the pattern repeats. The Ministry of Intelligence, the Atomic Energy Organization headquarters, Parchin Military Complex, each one selected because it cannot be rebuilt quickly, relocated, or replaced from backup systems. The F-35 are not hitting random government buildings. They're severing the administrative nervous system that connects Iran's military leaders to its units in the field, its intelligence, and its nuclear bureaucracy. But every minute the F-35 spend over Tehran, their fuel ticks down and their exposure grows. And from the mountains of western Iran, Iran's most capable air defense system, the one the Lucas drones haven't reached yet, is tracking every one of them. 700 meters south of the smoke over Tehran, the Tomahawks finally reached the coast. The first warhead hits Walua IRGC naval base at 08:12 hours local time. The command building folds inward. Fuel storage behind it catches, and a column of black smoke punches straight up through the morning humidity. 4 minutes later, an F-15E Strike Eagle from the 48th Fighter Wing forward deployed to Jordan from RAF Lake, and Heath rolls in from the north at 18,000 feet and 60 degrees of dive angle. The weapon systems officer in the back seat has been staring at this target for the last 40 minutes on his APG-82 radar display. A hardened concrete shelter on the waterfront with a half-moon roof designed to protect the PACAP class fast attack boats inside. These are the boats that Iran built to swarm the Strait of Hormuz, 50 feet long, armed with machine guns and rocket launchers designed to sprint out in packs of 100 and overwhelm oil tankers and US ships with volume. Nobody's sprinting anywhere today. He designates the shelter, confirms GPS lock, pickles the GBU-31, 2,000-pound drop off the centerline station. The JDM tail kit deploys. 4 grid fins adjusting 10 times per second, steering a slab of Triangle and hardened steel toward a roof that was built to stop shrapnel. Not a weapon that hits with the force of a freight car. 30 seconds of free fall. The bomb punches through the concrete arch and detonates inside the shelter. The overpressure has nowhere to go. The walls blow outward. The roof pancakes down onto the boats like a fist closing. The Strike Eagle is already climbing, pulling 5 Gs back to altitude when the Wizzo confirms the hit on the targeting pod footage. Below them, the Strait of Hormuz sits open and quiet. Iran spent 40 years threatening to mine it and choke the global economy. The boats that were supposed to do it are burning under a collapsed roof on the Gulf Coast, and the Navy is far from being done with Iran today. 500 meters east, the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln is making 30 knots into a headwind. On the flight deck, an FA-18E Super Hornet from BFA 41 Black Aces sits on Catapult 1 with both F-414 engines at military power. The catapult officer drops to one knee and touches the deck. The holdback breaks and the shuttle fires. 0 to 165 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. 4 Gs shove the pilot's spine into the ejection seat hard enough to test whether breakfast is staying down. The Black Aces are headed for Chabahar, Iran's only deep water port on the Gulf of Oman. Tomahawks hit the command post and fuel storage 20 minutes ago. The petroleum reserves are throwing a column of black smoke visible 60 miles out on the strike package's forward-looking infrared. But the submarine piers are still standing, and a Gator-class AIM sub that slips out to sea can carry mines into the Strait of Hormuz on a hole small enough to hide in commercial shipping traffic. That cannot happen. The lead Hornet rolls in on the submarine pier with a GBU-31 jam. His wingman from VFA 14 Top Hatters follows 30 seconds later and puts a second 2,000-pounder into the dry dock facility next door. If you can't fuel a submarine, repair it, or load it with mines, it might as well be an expensive lawn ornament. A third pair targets the Charlie 802 anti-ship missile battery on the coastal bluff, the launcher that could threaten tankers and coalition warships in the strait. 2 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs later, and the battery ceases to exist. Across the Gulf Coast, the coordinated Tomahawk then fighter pattern has now hit Asaluya, Chabahar, and Bandar Abbas, home to Iran's Kilo-class submarines and the IRGC Navy's fast attack headquarters. The carrier air wing still has plenty of weapons left on the rails as insurance against any IRGC boat brave enough to sort. None do. But 500 meters north, the F-35 over Tehran are running low on fuel, and the air defense system in the western mountains is now coming alive. 3 hours into the operation, the weapon Iran was counting on finally gives itself away. After Israel dismantled virtually all of Iran's Russian-supplied S-300 batteries in October of 2024, Iranian engineers did something genuinely impressive. They spent 2 years building a domestic replacement, what the IDF will later designate the SA-65 Mobile Phased Array Radar, roughly 150 kilometers engagement range, the ceiling of what Iran could build under sanctions. They positioned it in the Kerman-Shah Mountains, guarding the western corridor Israeli jets have been using all morning. An EA-18G Growler from the Lincoln's air wing catches the first emission. The SA-65 search radar has been pulsing intermittently for hours, short bursts trying to track the F-35Is without staying on long enough to attract a missile. But now, with a second wave of ROMs inbound through the corridor, the battery commander makes the decision every air defense operator dreads. He switches to fire control, full power, continuous track. He's going for a shot. The moment he transmits, he is finished. The Growler's ALQ-249 next generation jammer floods his tracking frequency with enough power to turn the display into noise. Simultaneously, an F-35I that's been passively mapping that emission for 90 minutes passes the precise grid coordinates via Link 16.